It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set!
Just call me Swanee.
Tigers time. Tigers time.
Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle. Once again, it is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon. As you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 the Midlands, heard around the world. On the iHeartRadio app, download today. It's free. The show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk, right here. Fox Sports Radio 1400 every afternoon. Our website, put the .com on it, doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Great content over there right now on the front page, including an article. DJ Uiagalelei is back, and so is Clemson as a legitimate playoff threat. That article coming to you from SaturdayRoad.com. Again, it's over on the website. Our full interview with Levon Kirkland. We'll reset that interview with Levon Kirkland here on the program for you today after we wrap up our interview coming up here with Clemson Tom, Hour 2, Tommy Bowden. Going to be a part of the program, and then we will move into conversations about Clemson and Wake Forest and the matchups forthcoming this weekend. But without further ado, Clemson Tom. CT, what's up, man? Welcome in.
I'm doing good. I'm about to pack up the car and head to Savannah for the weekend. How are you?
I'm good, man. Listen, were you did you go to the Clemson game last week? I can't remember if that was last week or 2 weeks ago. They all are running together for me.
No, that was last week. Yeah, we were there.
So give us your thoughts on Clemson and La Tech and just sort of the vibe that you picked up watching this team in person.
Well, a lot of room for improvement, clearly. I thought DJ played well for what we had him for. Took our starters out, put the backups in, had to put the starters back in. DJ being under the microscope so much, it's almost like he's almost in a no-win situation. But we won the game. The atmosphere was great. Night game in Death Valley, nothing gets better, man. Nothing is better than that, especially with the new light show and everything else. I loved it. I thought we did a great job on that. But just being in Tiger Town, obviously, man, Tiger Town on game day, brother. That's heaven.
Is this an accurate statement? Because I believe it is. The Jumbotron is actually bigger in person than you think it is when you see it on TV.
Oh, yeah. The Jumbotron's huge. It's pretty good. I did like the fact that the Tigers' eyes light up. I thought that was cool.
Well, the old one did, but you couldn't tell.
No, because it's pretty old, man.
It was pretty
I did
old.
like how the Tigers' eyes light up.
Clemson Tom, again, is on Twitter at Clemson Tom. You can follow him over there and keep up with everything that he's got going on. And, Tom, I'll be honest with you, man. You said it a minute ago, DJ Uiagalelei is under the microscope. But, I put out a statistic the other day that I saw online where he's third in the country right now against the blitz in terms of passing yardage. Yeah. And so, as things start to settle in for him, if he continues to get better, I'm not here to say, hey, look, guys, the sky's the limit and this guy can get back to what you expected him to be a year ago. But I think it's possible, Tom, that there is a special year potentially looming for DJ at this point.
It could. I mean, we haven't, but let's face it. We haven't played a significant defense like we're going to start facing from here on out. Florida State's going to throw some things at them. Wake Forest, this isn't the Wake Forest of old, man. This Wake Forest team's decent. I'm not saying they're world beaters or they'd beat Alabama or anything like that, but they're not a pushover by any means. So we're going to start seeing a little bit of better talent going forth.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how these stats work out. It's almost like preseason a little bit. So let's see what happens. I love how so far we're looking. But yeah, let's keep after it. I wish we'd keep the pedal down, man, and just run the score up and just show people what we're all about. Because there's times where I'm like, we're not the number 4 team in the country.
Tom, did you feel like punching yourself in the face last Sunday when Isaiah Simmons hit Hunter Renfrow, causing a fumble return for a touchdown to win the game for Arizona against the Raiders, just because, Clemson on Clemson crime just doesn't go well for me?
I didn't want to punch myself in the face, man. That's just football. He made a play, man. I feel bad for Hunter, but I mean, he made a play.
Do you still dap that guy up if you're Hunter Renfrow? Do you still exchange jerseys after the game?
Probably, because at the end of the day, you just got to respect your old teammate, man. Like that happened probably every day at practice. It just is. It is what it is, man. If you're playing up against a Clemson player, you're gonna play a little extra harder. I mean, I can't remember what it was. I was a WWE documentary with Triple H and Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
And they were talking about their match together. And they're like, when you wrestle, you're a really close friend of yours. You hit him a little harder, which was weird. But you go that extra mile because it is your friend, and you do want to give it everything you've got. You don't really lay up. So that you could probably play that into it a little bit, but
right.
I mean, I don't care if I'm playing up against my best friend growing up. If we're playing football and I got a way to save the game for my team, and it's legal, you make a play, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, what would we say? Oh, can you believe what Hunter did Isaiah? Oh my gosh, Hunter made a play, but it's Isaiah made a play, so it's what it is.
Better dad bod, Clemson Tom or Hunter Renfrow?
Oh, clearly Hunter Renfrow. He's early dad bod. See, I'm like 9 years in dad bod.
Yeah.
I mean, we got the same hairline. I think I got him on hairline. I definitely got him on hairline. I have the better beard. He's got me beat on ATM receipts, though, so he's kind of the winner on that one. He's got a little bit more in the bank than I do. Actually, a lot more.
Well, I will say this, man. I saw a photo of him. I don't know what I was doing. Somehow I ended up in his Instagram, just digging around. There was a photo of him and Will Sweeney. And I almost busted out laughing because Hunter was holding his child, it looked like after a game. And I mean, literally, like, people might think we're joking that he has a dad bod. Legitimately does not look like an athlete at all.
And that's always been like the thing about Hunter. He does look like, he's here to do your taxes, or hey, the computer guy's here to reset the Wi-Fi. Like that's Hunter. That's what he looks like. It is what it is. He looks like he works at Publix, stocking some shelves. Yes, ma'am, it's aisle 4. I'll walk you over there. My pleasure. That's what he looks like. But at the end of the day, that's one of the best route runners in the NFL, man.
Sir, you'll be behind the white Tahoe in line at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, just a random guy. But that's also the mystique of Hunter Renfrow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what makes Hunter Renfrow Hunter Renfrow.
Clemson Tom again on Twitter at Clemson Tom. So the other thing, Tom, that I do want to get into with you here today is just sort of college football. I mean, at this point, does it feel like to you the reigning defending national champions Georgia are perhaps still at the top of the charts and maybe have some distance, possibly even between themselves and Alabama from what we've seen so far?
Yeah, Georgia looks good, man. They look real good. I don't see them really losing the game. Everyone's going to throw everything at them, but man, I know South Carolina's, South Carolina, and I'm not going to make fun of them because they are trying to rebuild and trying to do the thing. But I mean, shoot. I mean, they had South Carolina fans emptying out the stadium in the second quarter. But they just look good. I mean, they're probably going to repeat. And I hate Georgia, but you can't knock how good they are. I mean, I don't like their fans barking, throwing dog food at you when you go to Athens, but you just want to talk about the players. That's a good squad right there, and Kirby's got them running. Clearly it's going to be Alabama and Georgia in the SEC championship game. So that's basically your national championship because they're not going to leave Alabama out of the playoffs. So that's going to be the national championship.
You know, I'll say this too. Their tight end play, I mean, is simply incredible. And in an era where for a lot of teams, the tight end in Clemson, look, I'm staring at you right in the face. Clemson, Dabo Swinney, Brandon Streeter, Kyle Richardson, I'm staring you right in the face. The tight end position at Georgia is a weapon in the offense. Brock Bowers is just dominating. And Clemson, you know, I think has some talent with Jake Brenningstool and Davis Allen, but these guys don't touch the football, Tom. And look, if the tight ends at Clemson, you know, are making about as many plays as you and I are for the team, it's not an impactful group right now.
True. You cannot disagree with that. And if you look back at our history, our tight end has been key for this offense. I mean, just look down the line. We've got a bunch of young guys, but a tight end in an offense can create so many different mismatches, so many opportunities. And if you get a really, really good tight end, then the sky is the limit right there, man. You've got a big guy with some speed. I mean, forget about it. But, yeah, Georgia's got a very, very good tight end down there. Ours are just young, Swanee. I mean, look at our guys. I think they're sophomores. You know, they still got that sophomore build. They need to go down to SO, get them a meat and three. I don't know, get them a girlfriend that knows how to cook some fried chicken real good, some college, get them some good soul food, get some mac and cheese in there, pat up them ribs a little bit, and get a little bit of fatness to you. You need that as a tight end. Some of these cats look like Hunter Renfrow, but 6'4". You know? Need a little bit of meat on it, buddy.
Follow him on Twitter at Clemson Tom. Plenty of restaurants in Tiger Town to get a little meat on the bones. But this weekend, Krispy Kreme Doughnuts, the home point for Clemson, Tom, is they take on the Demon Deacons. You mentioned it earlier. You know, Dave Clawson's really turned this program around, but they are the Atlantic Division champions. Clemson trying to get back, you know, that title, is they've held it for many years prior to last season when Wake Forest went to the ACC championship game. But you know, when you look at this matchup, Tom, and you think about Clemson getting Brian Brzee back, you know, the belief that you'll have Tyler Davis back, and just that Clemson Tiger defense up front, man, it's just so disruptive. And in Wake Forest, as fast as they run their offense, that slow handoff that in that mesh point that they really like to try to utilize doesn't work so well when you can't win at the line of scrimmage. And Clemson's really dominated the line of scrimmage the past couple of ball games.
Oh, yes. Our D-line is just – you want to talk about meat and three. You can see those cats walking up to us doing a meat and three. They turn the open time to close real quick. They'll run out of food. Man, I want Brzee back so bad, just kind of get into a rhythm. Hopefully we get XT back here soon as well, man. But towards the end of the season, this defense should come together a little bit better. And, man, you want to talk about disruptions. Good Lord, they're going to be like a bad kid in middle school, just disrupting people all day long, getting nothing done. It's going to be, man, I'm excited for that.
So are they, I mean, you know, you mentioned Alabama and Georgia, and you kind of called that like a default, you know, national championship or a chance to get in the playoffs or SEC championship, whatever the term you used exactly. I didn't write it down. But, I mean, is Clemson a playoff team, Tom? I mean, do you think this team has the goods to get in to a playoff? I mean, right now they're sitting fifth. Georgia and Alabama are ahead of them. Ohio State and Michigan are ahead of them. You're projecting that those 4 teams are going to all play at some point this year because Michigan and Ohio State play in the Big Ten regular season and Alabama and Georgia in the SEC championship. So if that's the case, do you buy into Clemson being in the college football playoff?
Not yet, man. We just don't. Like, if you see those teams play, you're like, they're good. You see us play, we're like, I don't know. But we always play everything close to the chest at first because we don't need to open up the playbook against the Georgia Tech, against the Furman, against the La Tech.
Right.
We don't have to. Like those other teams kind of do. They want to. That's just how we play ball. I need to see more out of this team. But if the playoff was Saturday, I would say we don't belong in it. But we got the rest of the season to figure that out. But right now, I say we don't look like it quite yet. But we could. We could easily all of a sudden flip a switch. Next thing you know, we're lighting it up. Guys are catching the ball a little bit better. Everybody's healthy on defense. O-line's finally clicking and we're blocking. I mean, it could happen in one day. It could literally happen tomorrow. And next thing you know, we're going to be like, can you believe we just blew out Wake Forest? Where was this team all year? That's a conversation we legitimately could have.
Tom, how frustrating is the transfer portal for you? I mean, I know Clemson's lost a couple of guys, Sergio Allen and Dakari Collins over the first 3 weeks of the season, heading into the 4th ball game of the year. But I mean, how frustrating is the portal for you, man?
It's not frustrating for me at all. If look at the guys that are leaving. I didn't know their own team. Like, it's not like we're losing. It's not like Shipley's like, I'm bouncing. Then they'll be like, whoa, time out. What's going on? I mean, you got guys that are leaving. They're like, okay, cool, man. Good luck. And if you look at the history of the transfer portal with Clemson, look at Lynn J. Dixon. He's on portal 9. I mean, he's almost in the metaverse on the next college team. I feel like I'm watching like Doctor Strange movie. He's in a new universe every 3 weeks, every month. So just because it's there doesn't mean the grass is greener on the other side. So it doesn't bother me that much. If you don't want to be at Clemson, if you don't want to be a Tiger, then, I'll call you an Uber. Where you want to go, buddy? If it ain't for you, it ain't for you. It doesn't bother me. We don't lose a lot of guys. So
right.
To me, it's whatever. It's a way out for someone who wants to get more playing time.
Well, do you have a solution to make it where guys don't leave during the year? I mean, do we need that, or do you not? It doesn't bother you at all?
I like that they can leave during the year. I think that's copping out. I do want to, film a Rally Cat jersey. Like, here you go, put that on since you want to act a certain way. You should be able to leave at the end of the season. There should be like a month, 2 months where it's open, and then you go. But to quit on your teammates during the year just because you're upset about playing time or maybe this ain't for you, then that's just copping out because you have no idea what the next day is going to bring. You have like, I'm not getting enough playing time. Well, what if at the next practice, God forbid, something happens to the guys in front of you and he takes a hit, breaks an ankle, he's out for the year. Then it's your time to shine. But no, we all want instant gratification. No one really wants to work as hard to get up there. It's like, I'm coming out of school. I'm a 5-star. I'm supposed to play right now. Well, guess what, buddy? Everyone above you is a 5-star. So why don't you act like a 5-star and practice like a 5-star, and maybe you'll beat out a 5-star for 5-star playing time. But not, some of these cats, they want instant gratification. So you know what? You don't want to be here. Like I said, I'll call the Uber.
Follow him on Twitter at Clemson Tom. Tom, buddy, have a great weekend, man. And I look forward to talking to you next Friday, brother.
Yes, sir. You do the same. Go Tigers.
There he is, Clemson Tom. 803-450-0086. Text line, phone line. Again, be a part of the program anytime. I said it earlier out of the gates here, man. We had an unbelievable interview with former Clemson Tiger linebacker Levon Kirkland earlier this week. Resetting that one for you here on the program in hour number 1. Hour 2, Tommy Bowden joins us, and we'll dive into a load of coverage of the football games coming up this weekend. But again, when we get back, our interview from earlier this week, that we did with Levon Kirkland. You don't want to miss it. Hanging out with you on a Friday, the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan, I mentioned it before the break. Our interview with Levon Kirkland, man, it was such a hit. I said, you know what? When we did it on Monday, I said, we're resetting this thing on Friday to take people to the weekend. So here it is, our exclusive interview with Levon Kirkland. Levon, man, it's been far too long. Glad to have you back on the show.
Yes, it has been a long time. But, I'm always here and available for you, but you don't call or write unless you want something. So I'm here, and thank you so much for allowing me to be
here. Yeah, man. Look, I appreciate it. And I know our photographer, David Groom's got a great shot of you and I believe it was Terry Kennard. Who was the other guy? I didn't know the other guy.
Oh, that was, yeah. Well, the guy in the middle was Tony Kennedy. He is my roommate from back in the day.
Okay.
He's one of the guys that I brought along with me. But, yeah. It was Terry Kennard, Tony Kennedy, and myself.
Well, I'm going to tell you what now. I don't know where Tony Kennedy got his shirt, but for anybody that hasn't seen the shirt that he was wearing, man, that was a jam-up national championship T-shirt with the big ring on there. I loved it. I thought that was awesome.
Oh, yeah. That was pretty awesome. I don't have a shirt like that, so I'm going to have to ask Tony exactly where he got his shirt because it's not really easy to find a shirt in my size, like a 3X, and it's a Clemson shirt, and it's a quality shirt. It's hard to find.
Oh, man. Levon Kirkland hanging out with us here on the program. So, Levon, before we talk about the game and what you've seen from this team this season, give us some insight, into being named an honorary captain for this team for this past Saturday's game against Louisiana Tech.
It was really cool to be able to go out and to not only just walk on the field, but able to go and do the Tiger Walk that I was able to do with the team, and to see it, from another perspective as far as running down the hill, and then also with the new scoreboard that they have, and then the light show that you had. It was really cool because we didn't really play a lot of night games when I was at Clemson. Really, we actually didn't play any. So to see it like that, and to see how Clemson has grown over the years, everything that's new there, it's incredible. So it was a lot of fun. It really was.
Yeah, the new scoreboard, the entrance. I tell you, I told Tim Beret this last week. I think one of the coolest things that's happened with that change, Levon, and you tell me from field level and getting ready to see it the way you did, I like the fact that the new scoreboard is much higher in the air, so you can really see the team getting off of the buses. I mean, when I was a kid and we were in Death Valley and you were playing, you guys got on the bus on one side. We really couldn't see you. They weren't showing you coming around the stadium. And then you popped up on the other side, but even still, you couldn't see it the way you can see it now. It's just to me, it's a better viewing experience, if you will.
It seems like somebody kind of studied, the hill and seen us running down the hill and how it could got better. So yeah, I thought it was a lot better too. I love the big scoreboard, and it was tremendous. I mean, I guess they call it what do they call it? The Dabo?
Dabotron.
Yeah, I thought that was a really nice touch, man. But you know what? You have to entertain the fans now, because it's so easy to just watch it on TV, but you got to give the fans something to come and see. And I'm telling you, folks, if you haven't seen the scoreboard live and in living color, you're really missing out. So I encourage everybody to go see it if you're a Clemson fan.
Levon Kirkland with us here, spent many years in the NFL, but for all you Clemson Tiger fans, you remember his days on the gridiron. He's on Twitter at Levon_Kirkland. He's a part of the SC Football Hall of Fame, a big initiative there in the upstate, and certainly is one of the legendary players in all of Clemson Tiger history. And so with that, Levon, I want to dive into some of the defensive mindset for the Tigers this year. Wes Goodwin takes over, and it's virtually, I mean, he was an unknown coming in a lot of respects. Like when Clemson hired Brent Venables, everybody knew Brent Venables' name. When Dabo Swinney hired Wes Goodwin, nobody really knew who he was. Give us some insight, if you can, if you do know Wes Goodwin into that side of things, but also just what it takes to be a defensive coordinator in your mind at this level.
Wow. Well, yeah, I do know Wes pretty well. We actually worked at Arizona together.
I thought y'all were with the Cardinals. Yeah.
Yeah. And Wes really does know the game inside and out. He understands football. He understands every coverage. I mean, probably every front, how it works. And, I think that's the reason why he got the job that he did. And he's also been working with Brent Venables for quite some time as well. So, although people may not know Wes, he actually is a really sharp mind as far as understanding football and what to do with the X's and O's. I think as a play caller, and I've done it myself on the high school level and on the college level, it's really more than just understanding the game and knowing how the X's and O's go on paper, because we can draw things up and we can say, hey, this will work if they run this. But now you got to think about that other guy and how he may think, and really just how the game is flowing. A lot of times you can have a play that you really think works, you put it in there, but the players are not very comfortable with it. So what do you do on that standpoint? You got to throw it away. So it's more than just understanding, knowing the game and studying the game. It's actually being able to adjust to on the fly and being able to put your defense in a favorable position. But sometimes even on defense, I think you have to be smart enough to be simple and let your players, especially if you got the athletes like Clemson got, sometimes you just say, hey, we're just going to do something very basic where everybody knows where they're going. There is no confusion, and we're going to just we're just going to play ball, and we're just going to get after you. So I guess you got to know the pulse of your team and also understand what the opponent on the other side is really doing, how he's trying to expose you, and to make sure that everybody's on the same page, everybody knows what they're doing, and he's going to get better as the season goes along, as long as he becomes a defensive coordinator. But it's always about the players too. You got to make sure that you're doing what's best for the players and making sure they understand, and not only that they have ownership in what's going on between the line of scrimmage.
That's our interview from Monday with Levon Kirkland. We hit a break. We'll come back with more of the interview next. Rocking and rolling on a Friday, our interview with Levon Kirkland from earlier in the week. So, Levon, give us some insight into communication between the booth and the field. To me, it seems like that would be incredibly difficult to kind of relay to the coaching staff, et cetera. The guy up top telling the guy on the field what he's seeing. Give us some insight into what that's like.
It's not always easy. Honestly, a lot of times sometimes you have to trust the players and see if, tell me what's going on. Like if you're driving a car and you're on the passenger side, you're thinking that, man, that curb's a little tight. You're going to hit that car. Watch out. But sometimes as the driver, you got it. You understand, you're in the driver's seat. You see it a little bit. You have a better perspective. So a lot of times it is a combination of understanding what people on the headphones are telling you, understanding what's going on as far as your eyesight is showing you. But a lot of times I think you can get insight to the players because they're the ones out there that are playing the game. And sometimes they see it a lot better than you. So I think it's a combination of everything. Sometimes things look a certain way live, and then we see it on film and it looks totally different. So there are several different ways that you can learn and understand as a coach, but it's all about getting better either way. And it's all about making sure that the players understand the fundamentals and how the defense works together, but also being able to react and be able to be proactive at some point in time. But I think it's a combination of making sure that you're coaching well, that you're showing the fundamentals that everybody know and on the same page, but the players have got to take ownership of it. And I think in a lot of ways last night they did. They really bounced back from the Furman game. And then I thought they really tackled well. They were able to give themselves opportunities to, continue playing instead of really big time touchdowns. So it's a combination of all that. You got to be able to gather that information, what your coaches are telling you, also trusting in yourself and what you're doing, but also being able to, ask players, what are you seeing? What does it feel like out there?
He's on Twitter at Levon_Kirkland. Again, Clemson Ring of Honor inductee and one of the finest linebackers to ever play at Clemson. So I'll ask you about the linebacker group. One of the things that I feel like I'm seeing here is there's incredible talent with Trenton Simpson and Barrett Carter and whoever you want to play middle linebacker, whether it's Jeremiah Trotter Jr. or Keith McGuire, whoever you throw in there. But experience is still sort of a thing they're getting used to. And it's amazing to me because I wouldn't argue with anybody that all of these guys are better athletes than, say, James Skalski and Balin Spector. But those guys, I think, knew the game a little bit better at this point. Well, they were a little more mature last season, I should say, not this point. But, just kind of knowing the game. How difficult is it, when you're a younger guy trying to kind of pick up on the game? And would you agree with that assessment that, hey, these guys are maybe more talented, but still have a lot to learn from the standpoint of playing the position?
Well, I would really concur with your assessment as far as Skalski, Boulware, those guys understood the game a little better. May not have been better athletes, but they understood the game a little bit better. They knew where everybody fit. And as a linebacker, sometimes it depends on the person. It takes you a little time. It takes, because you got to see it. It's got to be repetition. And a lot of times you're learning along the way, as far as practice is concerned, what teams do, what players do. It takes a little bit of time. I think that especially that middle linebacker or the inside linebacker position is more cerebral. Outside linebackers, it's either usually on the outside, is usually going away from you or coming to you. So it's quite simple. But when you're inside, you got things coming at you from every angle. Not only that, you got to be able to stop the run, be able to tackle, hit and shed, be able to tackle in space, be able to tackle when there's a lot of trash around you, a lot of players, be able to get into that hole, stick a guy. And then also you got to be able to cover not only zone concepts, but man to man. So yeah, it takes a while. It's not, it's not that easy. It's not just running around, attacking the ball a lot of times. You got to be able to understand and know what not only your position is doing, but everybody else's position is doing, and then be able to read and react in real time.
Now, we've seen some great linebackers come through in recent years, Dorian O'Daniel, Isaiah Simmons, and they've all kind of played that nickel hybrid spot that now is occupied by Barrett Carter. And the shift really has been Trenton Simpson, right, moving over to that weak side spot. Give me some insight into the differences there for Simpson, because to me, he is as athletic of a linebacker as I've seen in a long time.
No question about it. He's very athletic and run from sideline to sideline. But sometimes when you change positions like that, it's really about getting used to a certain position and being comfortable in that position. So a lot of times when you move around, it is an adjustment period because you have to kind of see it and understand it and know exactly when you can do this or when you can do that. So, no matter how athletic you are, that linebacker position calls for someone not only being aware of what he's doing and being able to pursue after the ball, but being smart and being cerebral of when to do it, how to do it, and why to do it.
What are some of the most positive things that you've picked up on? Because I'm sure you see the game a lot differently than the casual observer from the defensive side. What things have you really liked, Levon, this year from this Clemson defense under Wes Goodwin in his tutelage through 3 ball games?
Well, I think that overall they are faster. There's no question about that. I think they got guys who can make plays in space. They seem to tackle well. I think the defensive line, in which I think all things start from the line perspective. I think you got to jump there. You got a definite advantage. You got a D line that can absolutely play. They're big, they're strong, they're tall. They can get after the passer. But even like last night, for example, Louisiana Tech was throwing that ball quick. And, once they got adjusted to that, they understood that, hey, we got to get our hands up. We got to try to knock some passes down. We got to make it really tough for the quarterback.
Again, that's legendary Clemson linebacker Levon Kirkland. The interview from Monday. We hit a break. We'll put a bow on hour one next. Back at it on a Friday, the show that shakes the Southland. Back with our interview with Levon Kirkland. So, Levon, how do you think Clemson's doing getting to the quarterback this season?
So I think in a lot of ways it's been really good. The Furman game wasn't great, but I say, people say don't make excuses, but I always say there are explanations why things happen. And, a lot of people have never did that Sunday and then you have to come back and play Saturday. That's tough for a defense because defense is all about energy and pursuit and hunting all the time. It's exhausting to do that. So when you come from playing the game on Monday night and then you got to turn around and play a Saturday game, your body is not accustomed to that. Your body is accustomed to playing from Saturday to Saturday. That means your body gets to recover for at least 7 days or so. In this case, it was a quick turnaround. And a lot of times that affects the defense more so than the offense because the defense, again, we have to read and react where the offense understand and know exactly what they need to do, what they need to do, what place they need to do. So it's an advantage a lot of times. So that's kind of how I looked at that game from Furman. It was just, that, the team was tired. And then also, I think people got to get over this part too. The main difference between, I think, a Power 5 team and all these other teams you want to, say are out there, 100-something teams or 200-something teams, the skill set as a quarterback and the other skill position, running backs, wide receivers, they're not that much different. They're really not than the Power 5 teams. The only difference is the up front guys. That's the difference between Alabama and some other teams. It's the guys in the trenches. And so sometimes when you play a team that, you think, oh, well, you should beat these guys, Furman or whatever like that. You got to understand that they got some pretty good players as far as wide receivers, quarterbacks, running backs are concerned. The difference is normally the offensive and defensive line. Nowadays, when you play these teams like Appalachian State or Marshall, they got skill positions. They got skill guys. And if you go to sleep on them, they'll burn you.
It's a great point. Levon Kirkland with us here for just a couple of more minutes. All right, Levon, final thing, and we do appreciate your time this afternoon. I want to ask you about the Clemson offense because here's my theory. Like, I don't think this offense is all that bad. I think the problem is that they're compared to an offense where there was Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and T. Higgins and Justin Ross. Like, they're compared to this unbelievably talented offensive side of the football from Clemson a couple of years ago. What's your take on what you've seen from this Clemson team offensively? And are they good enough to lead this team to an ACC championship and potentially a berth in the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right when you're talking from a fan perspective or anybody who's watched Clemson football over the last 10 years or so. You're talking about some all-time players. You're talking about guys like Trevor Lawrence. You're talking about guys like Deshaun Watson, who's, one of the most incredible quarterbacks in college football. You're talking about Mike Williams that you saw last Thursday was just clowning guys. You see guys like T. Higgins that catches everything. The offense was so explosive and they had so many big time players that you feel like that's the way it should always be. And that's not the case. I think the offense is better than it was last year at this time. I think people get frustrated a little bit is because it seems simple. It seems like they're not explosive. We want, when those guys were here, and they were winning national championships, that ball was going in the air. You're talking about 60-yard touchdowns. You're talking about big runs. I mean, it was just really clicking. And at this point right now, there's a lot of growth that needs to be going on. And, it's still a learning process. You're talking about changing the offensive line from the center position. That's difficult. Center is a lot. It means a lot. Offenses take normally a lot of time to gel unless you've been together for a long time. And this offense hasn't been together for quite some time. I think that this offense needs to realize that, sometimes it's not about balance. It's about getting the ball to the best player. Whether that be Will Shipley, you got to find ways to get the ball to Will Shipley. You got to be, if you can run the ball, man, forget balance. Let's do some play action and let's get people biting on the run. And I think you got capable tight ends that can run down the seam, down the hash, which is an easy pass. And also, too, I think a lot of times, when we go downfield, we don't really do a lot of post patterns. We do mostly anything from the outside on the sideline. If you're a defensive back, you got the sideline to help you out. Only thing you got to do is ride that guy out. And that's a tough throw. And also it's a tough catch. So you almost have to teach the wide receivers, hey, give yourself 4 yards from the outside, from the sideline, so you can fade, make the catch, and stay in bounds. So there's a lot of aspects to it. And also, too, we don't run a lot of mesh routes. It seemed like when back in the day, we ran a lot more mesh routes. You get in cover one if you want to. We're just going to bunch up, and we're just going to run across the field. And one of our guys is going to out-leverage one of your guys, and we're going to get the ball. So I don't think the offense is as terrible as people think. And plus, I'm a little bit more patient. I have a little more objectivity. So I can see the game and like, okay, you can do these things better. But I think it's just understanding what you are on offense sometimes. And it may not be a balanced attack. It's just something that people say, and you think like, yeah, we need to be balanced. We need to. No, man, you got to get the ball into the right people's hand, and that means your best player. And if you're a running team, find different ways to run the same thing and just do a lot of window dressing. And let's not make the game complicated. Give it to your best guy. Let him make some plays.
Levon Kirkland. Follow him on Twitter at Levon _Kirkland. Levon, man, always appreciate your time. And listen, I promise you this. You're going to be back on the show this season, and we're going to have you on a lot. I'm making it a goal. We're having you on a lot. Thanks, buddy.
Well, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that, brother.
Again, that full interview is on our website right now. Put the .com on it. Doggone it. ClemsonSportsTalk.com. That was on Monday. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. Tommy Bowden, former Clemson Tiger head coach, joins the program. Stay with us.
It's time for Clemson Sports Talk with Lawton Swan.
Ready, set. Just call me Swanee.
Tigers time. Tigers time.
It is hour number 2. That's drive time right here on the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk. Lawton Swan hanging out with you. And again, that interview we did with Levon Kirkland is over on our website in full length. If you want to go check that out, thought we'd give you that here on a Friday because it was so good. I actually had people write me saying, man, that was fantastic. And I know a lot of you aren't here every day. Some of you making your way up to Winston-Salem today, you deserve to hear that. Lots of insight into West Durham, into playing defense, etc. What a guy. Hall of Famer at Clemson, Ring of Honor inductee, Levon Kirkland. Again, full interview on our website. Put the .com on it. Doggone it. That's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086 here in hour 2. We got Tommy Bowden coming up in just a moment. But we'll also dive into some of your calls, texts, etc. on the program as we get you towards kickoff tomorrow at noon, ABC. I'll say this for Clemson. Wake Forest was the Atlantic Division champs a year ago, and the Tigers get a chance to at least take one step ahead of the Demon Deacons if they could get a victory tomorrow at noon up in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, one thing, Dabo has proven he knows how to prepare his team for Wake Forest, playing at Wake Forest. He's obviously talked to them about the environment. Clemson's going to be heavily favored. Now, all those things he has been able to address over the years and proven he knows how to do it. So I think Clemson fans ought to feel good about that. Now, with that being said, percentages of Wake Forest eventually winning one of these games is in their favor. So it's going to be interesting. This is by far, Lawton, the best team that Clemson's played. It looks like Georgia Tech might be the worst team in the conference. Then you got an FCS team, then you got La Tech, which is not nearly as talented as what some of these ACC team is. So this will be a great test for Clemson, but I definitely like the chances.
Well, and the other thing, too, when it comes down to Wake Forest, like this game felt a lot different during the offseason when we found out that Sam Hartman was going to be out due to a non-football related issue, which turned out to be some blood clots in his shoulder. And we're glad he's back and we're glad he's healthy, obviously, for that young man. But when you've got a quarterback that's dynamic like he is and experienced, I mean, that can be all it takes in this sport because it is a very quarterback-driven sport for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt. And they have an offense that knows how to be productive. They have not been that productive versus Clemson. And sometimes the defensive coordinator can have your number. I had a problem with Wake Forest one time, and I had to make a change as defensive coordinator because we could not stop Wake Forest that particular time in a particular offense they were running. So I had to make a change, and the new guy did. Now, can this new defensive coordinator at Clemson, does he have the same number that Brent Venables did on the Wake Forest offense? That's we don't know. But if to be successful against Clemson, you surely have to have a quarterback like Sam Hartman. That's your best chance, and he's proven that he is a solid, very productive quarterback. So there'll be a lot on his shoulders. He will have to perform above average, above his norm for them to have success. But he has the potential to do that.
Former Clemson Tiger head coach Tommy Bowden with us here on the program today. And you mentioned Wes Goodwin, the new defensive coordinator at Clemson. So I interviewed Levon Kirkland. I'm sure you know Levon, the former Clemson Tiger linebacker, star in the NFL, and now he's in the Ring of Honor at Clemson. And I kind of asked him about adjustments in game. And one of the things that he said, and I think this is interesting because I don't think anybody denies that Wes Goodwin understands the game and has a good game plan, et cetera. But there was a moment in that interview where Levon said, the thing that you have to really grow, I guess, in doing is recognizing that while you're making your adjustments, so is the other guy, right? And that other guy is making adjustments based off of the things that you're doing. And so, I think that's probably the dance, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word, but the dance that Wes Goodwin's still having to figure out is how do you adjust in game when that other guy is also trying to counter you? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. That's why some people refer what you're talking about, that scenario, to a chess game. Once you make a move, that's not the move that ends the game. Then your opponent makes a move. Yes, and they do that, then you have to do this. And the guy that wins is always one step ahead. So, no, you're exactly right. And it's not so much halftime adjustments as it is adjustments between the series, because as soon as you stop them, say the third series, Clemson does something and makes adjustment and stops them, but all of a sudden that Wake Forest offensive staff is getting together while their defense is on the field and say, okay, this is how Clemson's defense is doing. We need to do this. Adjust this blocking scheme, adjust this protection. Receiver, you make this adjustment. So you're exactly right. A dance or a chess game,
yeah.
But it is series. It's series to series. A lot of people think of halftime adjustments, which is important, but you better make them before. You better make them, the third series of the first quarter, if there's three series, or the end of halfway through the second quarter, beginning of the second quarter, and on throughout the game. And Levon obviously has a good feel for it, and he's exactly right. And the way you describe it as a dance is one way, but a chess game is what a lot of analysts refer it to.
I saw a stat as well about DJ Uiagalelei, and it does feel like, as he goes, so will this Clemson Tiger team, to the point of where if he's really good, they can be in the playoffs, and if he's average, they could be have a 2 or 3 loss year, maybe more. But right now, Coach, he is third in the country in yards passing when teams are blitzing him. Give us some insight into what that could mean for Clemson moving forward from the standpoint of, advantages that the Clemson offense can have in games if teams do eventually become maybe a little bit fearful of, bringing some heat against DJ.
That's a great feel as a coach when your quarterback can be productive versus blitz and single coverage. Most of the time when you blitz, you have single coverage. I can remember as a young coach at Duke back in early 80s, and you probably don't. Do you remember the name Ben Bennett, the quarterback?
I don't recall.
Probably
no,
not.
sir.
But anyway, I think he was the first 9 or 10,000 yard passer in the ACC. Quarterback from California. I think Steve Spurrier had signed. Somebody else had signed it. But when I went in there with my staff, and every time they blitzed, I was in the press box. I said, "Oh man, you're gonna blitz this guy? You're crazy!" Because he was so accurate, had such a great feel for it. So you're right. That's a great feel. It's a great feeling for a coach knowing that he's got a quarterback that can handle pressure. Because stopping Will Shipley is going to be a big plan of the Wake Forest defense, and when you do, that throws the burden onto the quarterback and his ability to execute versus man coverage, single coverage, where they've got 8 in the box and soft edges out there is a key. So that's an important statistic. Now, the thing about it, you've got to look at perspective. Georgia Tech, maybe the worst team in the conference, FCS team,
Right.
and La Tech. But still, that's an impressive statistic regardless of who you play. I think the next few weeks is going to be an indication whether that's an accurate statistic or not as we go throughout the season.
Coach Tommy Bowden with us here on the program. Coach, I think one of the things that you were certainly known for, your father as well, was the fact that as important as football was to you, you kind of saw the bigger picture. And this past week, Sonny Cumbie, the head coach at Louisiana Tech, comes to Clemson, in the midst of facing one of the top 5 teams in the country, but recognizing the loss that Brian Brzee had with his younger sister Ella. Those players each writing an individual letter to the Brzee family. And, Dabo Swinney said after the press conference, he said, "Look, I don't know this guy, but I can tell you he's going to win because of, those philosophies and those principles." I mean, when you heard that story about Sonny Cumbie, I don't know, maybe you do have a relationship with him. I mean, what did that say to you about who he is and about what Louisiana Tech and maybe future teams that have him as a coach will get in terms of leadership?
That was a very compassionate thing to do. Now, I might be a little bit different than Dad, but I don't know if that's going to really increase his chance to winning. It's going to increase his chances to get to heaven, which is more important. I think he does have a better chance to get to heaven by doing stuff like that. I don't know about winning, but I was really impressed with that. I wish, I do a lot of Christian speaking. I wish my mom thought that way.
That's what I said.
That kind of compassion and thoughtfulness. But that was just a class act. I don't know if it's going to be attributed to winning or not, but it sure means, for him to initiate I'm sure he had to initiate his players to do it. For his players to do it and wear that T-shirt and to make that gesture. I don't know if I've seen that before, and so it's not. I don't think it's something he copied.
Yeah,
I think he had to think of that himself, and that was a first class act by the La Tech team, but I'm sure initiated by Sonny Cumbie.
It does feel like, though, it says something about the culture that he's trying to build within his team, right? Like, I mean, that seems kind of like I don't know if it's an accountability thing or respect for your opponent. It's the right thing to do, obviously. And like you said, that was my first response. Like, I thought, I can't imagine thinking of that with everything that he's got going on. But I mean, it really does says a lot. It does say a lot about the fact that, he recognizes that it's bigger than a game. And there are plenty of parents who want their child to go play for somebody who recognizes that it's more than just the game on the field, that there's a lot more to your role as a coach.
Oh yeah, I think that that gesture will have some benefits that'll definitely help him down the line in recruiting. But and not to make light of it, but it's still a game that's the team of the best players,
right?
And putting them in a position to be successful. That's one thing. The longer I coached, I learned the team of the best players usually wins the game, and so. But again, when you talk about a bigger picture, preparing those men for life after football. That's one of the lessons that you learn, I think, more in college than you do in the NFL. And I think some coaches like Dabo and probably Sonny Cumbie are their personalities and their coaching style and technique and the things they emphasize are more suited for college, where you teach those kind of lessons. So I think that gesture got it didn't get regional attention, it got national attention, and I'm surely it got attention back in Louisiana where he's going to recruit.
Well, and I tell you what else I saw. They tweeted out their IPTAY, their version of IPTAY has received over 100 donations from Clemson Tiger people. So their football program has gotten donations from Clemson donors as a level of support, and certainly getting a lot of support from Tiger fans moving forward. Again, former Clemson Tiger head coach Tommy Bowden on the program with us, giving us some insight and analysis into the upcoming matchup between Clemson and Wake Forest. And Coach, I kind of mentioned it out of the gates. You know, you had your issues with the Demon Deacons, and that environment is a weird one. 30 some odd thousand, if you're lucky, in that venue. A noon kickoff on a Saturday. I mean, I know Dabo Swinney has done better at just figuring out how to get these guys right for it, but I've got to imagine Wake Forest at noon is as hard as any to really get your guys up and going for.
There is, because it's not like, you're playing at noon there's a national TV audience and there's 87,000 people screaming, and you go out there for pregame and you can feel the electricity in the stadium. You feel none of that, and you do have to address that with your team, and that's why I think Dabo is ahead of the game as far as he addressed that issue obviously a lot better than I did, but it's still an issue. And then the fact that you've won so many against them in a row, and the players, boy, it's just hard not to keep them from getting complacent. And then the environment when you come out there, if Clemson hasn't had so much success in the past, I'm talking about Dabo,
right? In
that environment, I'd say they'd struggle with it. But this is a different team. If you got different leaders, you got different personalities, you got a different chemistry. So how will this team react to that environment? We're going to find out tomorrow. But their leader knows how to do it. Now, does the team know how to do it?
There's theories, right? There's theories out there that, people say things like, well, the reason Clemson's not attacking the middle of the field is they're conserving some of their playbook, things of that nature. And they really haven't. I mean, DJ, most of the balls he's throwing are to the sidelines towards the boundary, and kind of putting it where it's either a reception or an incompletion out of bounds, not really targeting over the middle of the field. I mean, is that something conscientiously that coaches do, in your opinion, kind of hold back a little bit until you get to the meat of the schedule, so to speak?
No, you don't hold back. Really, you really don't hold back. You've got an offensive package, and then what the defense does, you hopefully have things within your offensive package to attack the sidelines, to attack the middle of the field, to attack short, medium, and downfield in the middle and the outside of the field. So, and then whatever the defense is doing, you take that. Now, when you look at it from a scheme standpoint, you just look at the number of people. Most of the defenders are in the middle of the field. When you look out on the edges, there's usually one corner on one side and one corner on the other. They might have a safety over the top, but if they have a safety over the top on both sides, then the numbers are there to run. So, a lot of the holes in the defense are on the outside. Now, that's a longer throw. It is a lower percentage throw. The throws over the middle, they've got more defenders in the way, and you can play more games defensively with disguises and doubling receivers inside than you can outside. So there's a reason that the throws are more prevalent outside than inside. There's a lot more bad things can happen inside over the middle. High throws, deflected balls. You can double team players and things of that nature with different defenders. So, but I don't know exactly what their statistics are on throws over the middle. But at some point in time, you're going to have to attack that area. If not, then there's just the throws outside are further throws, but they're lower percentage completions. So they'll have to have a good attack over the middle at some point in time. They haven't needed it versus
Yeah.
their first three opponents. They probably will as they get into the meat of their schedule.
Final thing, I saw an interesting video on Twitter yesterday. It was of the Carolina Panthers actually lining up and just where they were kind of tipping their plays by depending on where Christian McCaffrey lined up. If he was offset of the quarterback, it was a zone read. If he was kind of parallel to the quarterback, then it tended to be a pass. And I've only seen that once. South Carolina's Dylan Thompson, based off of his footwork all season, I could tell you what kind of play was coming. And the reason I wanted to give you a couple of minutes here, a minute and a half or so, was there ever a tell? Do you recall a tell where you said, man, we got these guys because every time this is happening?
Oh yeah. You can definitely. There's some. And I'll take it on the other side of the ball on offensively. Dealing more as a play caller and being the press box.
Right.
But you look at the safeties and the depth of the safeties. How far inside the hash, how far outside the hash, the depth of the safeties. Oh yeah, they definitely develop tendencies, and you can get a pre-snap read, especially in the press box. That's why, as a play caller, I always like the press box because you can see more definitively the width, the depth, the footwork of the safeties than you can see on the field. But in the same way with the backs, once I became a head coach and spent more time with the defensive staff, you take a back in the backfield and look at his alignment, and all of a sudden he's foot to foot with your offensive tackle, but all of a sudden he's cheated inside where his outside foot is splitting the crotch of the tackle. Yeah. And you just look at and then you look at the depth. He's 5 yards, he's 4.5 yards. So you definitely develop tendencies. So I can see your initial comment about Christian McCaffrey and seeing the depth of the stance or the width or how far he is alignment over the guard or over the tackle or back. I can see there definitely being tendencies. Most of the time, though, you have support personnel self-scouting yourself and looking for those type of things. That's why you see the large staffs, analysts that Clemson has and some of these other staffs. That's what they look for. And the NFL has the same thing. I'm surprised that an NFL team would have develop that type of tendency. So somebody, one of the analysts wasn't doing their job properly or adequately. But yes, you definitely develop tendencies by alignment, backs, even linemen, safeties, linebackers. You go across the board. Some of them are pretty bad about disguising things. And if you do a good job of scouting and studying film, you can pick those deficiencies up.
Coach, enjoy the weekend. We always appreciate you. And we'll talk to you next Friday.
All right. Enjoy the game tomorrow.
Back at it on a Friday. That was Tommy Bowden before the break. Clemson, Winston-Salem, taking on the Demon Deacons at noon on ABC. That's great, man. That's great. I saw people on our Facebook page commenting. They said, oh, great, man. We can watch it on ABC. Love it over the air. Cord cutters. I said it earlier this week. Cord cutters unite. Speaking of a cord cutter, this man cut the cord. He is Double O on the program with us today. And Double O, I know you're excited being a fellow cord cutter that you're going to be able to watch the game tomorrow on ABC locally.
That is a fact, my man. Lawton, I am very excited. I probably need a Valium. I'm so excited. Anyway, I would like to comment on something Clemson Tom said early in the show.
Yeah.
He said that Alabama and Georgia is going to play for the national championship.
Well, you know what? Right? Okay, so good. I'm glad. All right, so I'm glad you said that because, I brought it up later in the interview with him. I thought that's what I heard him say, but I wondered if he meant the SEC championship. But go ahead. I'm listening. Carry on.
No, he said He said the SEC championship, but he also stated that Georgia, and I agree with him about Georgia, they look almost professional. I don't see anybody slowing them down. I don't see them losing any games. Alabama, on the other hand, Lawton, I see them losing a game. I just looked at their schedule, sir.
Yeah.
Alabama is not. They're good. Don't misunderstand me. They deserve to be in the top 5, top 4. I see them. I see them laying an egg. Like I told you, Clemson, I think, is going to do the same thing. I hope I'm wrong about Clemson. I hope I'm not wrong about Alabama.
Right. I think most people listening probably feel that way, but I mean, I could see it, right? Like when you watched Alabama against Texas, and again, one game doesn't mean that they won't be better, right, Double O, but it just felt like they have some vulnerabilities.
I think that way about Alabama. Yes, I don't think they're as good as the team they have this year. I don't think it's as good as last year. Now, I'm not trying to diagnose their problem. That's not. I'm concentrating on Clemson. I'm saying I'm looking at Alabama's schedule though, and I see a loss in the regular season. But they'll still play in the SEC playoff probably, and probably against Georgia. But Clemson Thompson also made the comment that the reason it'll be Georgia and Alabama in the national championship because he said they will not keep Alabama out. Now I understand his reasoning there because Alabama is they have favoritism, and if anybody wants to argue or debate that point with me, not a problem. If anybody can't realize that over the past since the playoffs have begun, they've been a favorite, and not. In other words, I think Clemson has to do a little bit more to make it than Alabama. If you pick up what I'm putting down.
No, I am. Final thing, and I'll get you out of here because Winston-Salem, Double O, is the franchise home of Krispy Kreme donuts. So if your choice was free Krispy Kreme for the rest of your life, if you choose for Clemson to lose tomorrow, would you choose for Clemson to lose tomorrow?
No way. I don't need a donut, man. No, sir. No, sir. I would not turn on my Tigers, brother. You could offer me you could say, hey, Double O, I'm going to send you $1,000 cash and if you would let Clemson. No, I don't want that blood money. No.
Be good.
No, sir.
Be good, Double O.
I enjoyed it, man. Later.
No blood money, no donut money. He is Double O. 803-450-0086. Text line and phone line. And speaking of the text line, our man Jamal texted the program. He said, Swanee, do you see any offensive players from Clemson making it to the NFL draft? That's Jamal listening to us in South Carolina. Woo, Jamal. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point you kind of gotta believe that Will Shipley's got what it takes to play in the NFL. I think Bo Collins has got the frame. I think Jordan McFadden will get a shot at tackle in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be a starter at tackle. Walker Parks will probably have an opportunity to try to play guard. So yeah, I mean, I think there are guys around this roster that feel like they can play professionally. I think DJ honestly is going to at least get a look, more of a look than Taj Boyd or Kelly Bryant got. I mean, Dabo Swinney talks about DJ like DJ's definitely leaving for the NFL next year. I don't know what kind of year he would have to have, Jamal, to make that become a fact, but if you told me that DJ ends up in the NFL, that's not surprising. I find it a little bit of a reach to believe that he would get there next season. I don't know. Maybe I think he needs more of a body of work. 803-450-0086. That is the text line and the phone line. Be a part of the show anytime. All right, so Clemson and Wake Forest facing off tomorrow. Some other key matchups we'll give you coming up here on the flip side as we close in on the bottom half of the program where we'll give our official prediction on Clemson and Wake Forest. It is the show that shakes the Southland, Clemson Sports Talk on Fox Sports Radio 1400 The Midlands, and of course heard around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Download it today, put it on your phone, and listen to the show on the go. Stay with us. Lawton Swan, the show that shakes the Southland, our website, ClemsonSportsTalk.com, the most digital content covering your Clemson Tigers, where our exclusive interview with five-star linebacker Sammy Brown is over on the front page, calling Clemson one of the best cultures in college football. You can watch that entire interview if you are a premium subscriber. $1 gets you 3 months. After that, $63.17 for a year of coverage of your Clemson Tigers. And in fairness, we talk about a lot more than just Clemson. We covered all Gamecocks, Bulldogs, Yellow Jackets, Seminoles, NFL. I've been known to talk a little NHL. I've been known to talk a little wrestling, as we say back in the day. Talk about it all. Tonight, Tony Elliott in Virginia taking on Syracuse. 7 o'clock on ESPN. Syracuse is a 9.5-point favorite. The Cuse are 3-0 on the season, a surprising 3-0. We'll see what happens with Tony Elliott's squad as they are 2-1, looking to pick up a victory on the road this evening. Additionally, last night, it was not a good performance for Virginia Tech. And, oh, man, I got to say, like, there are teams in college football, and look, Virginia Tech never got to the same level that Florida State and Florida and some of those others got to before they kind of fell off a little bit. But I'm just going to be honest with you. Virginia Tech is a disappointing program. I mean, disappointing. They were beat up by West Virginia last night to the tune of 33-10. Not to mention the fact that Virginia Tech actually scored the first touchdown of the ball game. That's right. Virginia Tech actually led that game 7-3. And West Virginia would go on to score 30 to Virginia Tech's 3 over the rest of that ball game, essentially over the final 3 quarters. I mean, that is just ugly. I don't know, man. Brent Pry, year 1, 2-2. Is he the answer for Virginia Tech? And I know it's early. I'm gonna have a wait and see approach to the Hokies. They were slaughtered last night, though, 33-10. As for some of the other games around the country that you probably want to keep your eyeballs on, yesterday I gave you a big rundown of the top 25 games. Not today. We streamline it. We give you just honestly just the hits. This is Casey's top 40. Keep shooting for the moon and you'll land upon the stars, or whatever Casey Kasem used to say. All right, top 25 matchup, Clemson and Wake Forest. You know that one, noon on ABC. Another game I'm looking forward to seeing, Baylor, 17th ranked Baylor on the road at Iowa State at noon on ESPN2. I think Baylor's in trouble. 3:30 on CBS. Number 20, Florida at number 11, Tennessee. I'm also intrigued by 2 other 3:30 starts, Texas at Texas Tech on ESPN and Notre Dame at North Carolina on ABC. You move into the later slate of games, 7 o'clock ESPN, number 10 Arkansas at Texas A&M, number 23 ranked Texas A&M. And then at 7:30 on ABC, Ohio State hosting Wisconsin. And, of course, more locally, if you're a South Carolina fan, that's 7:30 on ESPNU versus Charlotte. And then Florida State is hosting Boston College on the ACC network. Those are the games that give me a little rise, a little interest. You know, things that I'll probably have on the television at some point along the way would be those games. Maybe most interesting in terms of coaching hot seat, so to speak. And I don't know that A&M fans want to recognize the hot seat that could be created for Jimbo Fisher. But the Aggies in Arkansas hooking up at AT&T Stadium in Dallas. Not going to lie to you. Jimbo Fisher's got to start winning some ball games. And beating Alabama once is not enough. By the way, Arkansas ranked number 10 in the country, but Texas A&M has a 58% chance of winning the game, according to ESPN's matchup predictor. A&M also a 2-point favorite. So I don't know about you. I mean, you trust this A&M team? They're averaging 20.7 points per game. Arkansas is averaging 37.7. I'm not sure I trust A&M. How much time, honestly, and I don't have his contract in front of me, but I don't. A&M, listen, the one thing I don't want to hear from A&M fans is that, oh, we can't afford to fire somebody. Bull butter. Bull butter. You guys talk about the cash all the time. There ought not be a contract that makes you nervous. But if Jimbo Fisher were to lose this game and fall to 2-2 out of the gates, woo-hoo-hoo. Gonna be a long season for the Aggies, if that were the case. 803-450-0086 with a quick break. We'll put a bow on the show right after this.
What have you done for me lately? It's a fair question. Just don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't forget history. Lucky for us at Clemson, the answer to the questions, what have you done for me lately, and what have you done always, are the same. We win.
Final segment on a Friday afternoon, the show that shakes the Southland Clemson Sports Talk. Again, the Tigers at noon taking on Wake Forest on the road. A tricky venue. I do believe, though, the weather is supposed to be really nice in Winston-Salem, which, again, I don't I don't believe that weather necessarily is a determining factor in Clemson winning or losing. The high, I think, is supposed to be about 76 tomorrow. Somewhere in the high 60s at kickoff. Partly cloudy, no rain supposed to be coming in. So from that standpoint, what I would say is favorable weather, favorable play for Clemson. And then Gamecock fans, kind of weird. You guys don't play until 7:30 at night, and you're actually going to start your kickoff with warmer temperatures. Welcome to fall. Tomorrow morning is the type morning where you just want to put the windows down at your house, let some fresh air blow through, watch a little college football, a little game day with a cup of coffee, a little cup of joe, get you going. Again, for Clemson, is this game like paramount to winning the Atlantic Division or making it into the college football playoffs? I don't know that it is necessarily. Like, even though Wake Forest is the reigning Atlantic Division champions, do I foresee a situation where the Demon Deacons pick up more than one more loss along the way? They go to Florida State next weekend. Maybe they're looking past the Tigers. I know that's a difficult thing to imagine, but that road game at Florida State might be one that's got their attention. They also take on NC State on the road. They take on North Carolina at home. Obviously, Syracuse is playing well. I mean, they've got 3-4 games along the way that they could very easily lose. And so, would they lose 2? Probably so. Would Clemson lose 2 in conference? I mean, that NC State game's going to be clutch. It's going to be key. No doubt about that fact at all. But I think if we just look at it on the surface, Clemson's much more talented. I'll give you my prediction in a second. South Carolina and Charlotte tomorrow night. I think the Gamecocks will win this game, but I think it's going to be more like that Georgia State game where it's probably closer than Gamecock fans would like it to be. I'm going to take South Carolina, though, winning somewhere in the neighborhood of like 35-17, something like that. As for Clemson, I think you at some point have to see a championship offense. You have to see an offense that you believe has a championship pedigree. And we haven't seen it. We honestly have not seen it. But given the nature of the opponent, and not necessarily the fact that they're the most talented team Clemson will face, because they are not, but the fact that they are a team that presents the first real early threat, Clemson, I think you really want to see the Tigers play well offensively. If Clemson struggles, if the Tigers score, say, 24 points, even with a win, I still just wonder about what this team will do next weekend against NC State or down the line against Florida State. I mean, I think they got to put up like 38-41 to make me go, okay, this team's got a legit shot to make a run at the ACC championship game. Anything less than 38 points, and I'm probably going, I mean, if it's 37 and you miss an extra point or something, look, I'll lean in on that a little bit. But you follow what I'm saying, right? Like, if it's just an uncomfortable scoring output, then yeah, I worry. I do think Clemson wins. I think Wake keeps it close early. I think the Tigers pull away, win it by about 3 touchdowns. I will go in on that 38 number. I'll take Clemson 38, Wake Forest 17. That's a good final score. I think it's about right. I think Clemson covers it easy. We got to get out of here. We'll be back on Monday at 4 o'clock. And, of course, full coverage on our website all weekend, ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Until Monday, as always, y'all take care now. And go Tigers!